a momentary pause, the illusion of peace. Ceasefires. The word itself evokes a sense of relief, a break in the storm. But the reality on the ground, particularly in the context of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, is far more complex. While ceasefires offer a glimmer of hope, they often mask a deeper, more troubling reality. The current ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, the militant group that controls Gaza, is a case in point. After months of intense fighting since October 7, 2023, both sides have agreed to a ceasefire, bringing a temporary halt to rocket fire and hostilities. But the underlying issues, the root causes of this decades-long conflict, remain unresolved. The roots of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict run deep, stretching back to the early 20th century. The conflict centers on competing claims to the same land, a land sacred to both Jews and Palestinians. For Jews, it is their ancestral homeland, the land of Israel. For Palestinians, it is the land they have called home for generations. The establishment of the State of Israel in 1948 displaced hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, creating a refugee crisis that continues to this day. The 1967 Six-Day War resulted in Israel's occupation of the West Bank and Gaza Strip, territories the Palestinians claim for a future state. The conflict is a tangled web of historical grievances, political ideologies, and security concerns. In the midst of this ongoing conflict, ceasefires have become a recurring theme, offering brief periods of respite from the violence. A ceasefire, in its simplest form, is an agreement between warring parties to stop fighting. It is a truce, a suspension of hostilities, intended to create space for dialogue and potentially pave the way for a more lasting peace. Ceasefires have been a feature of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict for decades. Some have lasted for months, even years, while others have collapsed within days or even hours. They have often been brokered by third parties, such as Egypt, the United States, or the United Nations. However, the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict shows that ceasefires are often fragile and easily broken. As of today, January 19, 2025, a temporary ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is set to take effect. The agreement, mediated by Egypt, Qatar, and the United States, aims to end over 15 months of intense conflict. The first phase of the ceasefire involves the release of 33 Israeli hostages and several foreign prisoners, in exchange for Palestinian women and minors held in Israeli prisons. Humanitarian aid is expected to reach Gaza as part of the initial phase of the agreement. The next stages will include military withdrawals and the release of additional prisoners, with the ultimate goal of rebuilding Gaza. While this ceasefire offers a temporary break in hostilities, its long-term effectiveness is uncertain. There are concerns about the fragile nature of the agreement and whether it will hold or lead to further violence. The world is watching closely, hoping that this ceasefire can open the door to a lasting peace. While the current ceasefire has brought a welcome lull in the fighting, it is important to acknowledge the limitations and potential pitfalls of such agreements. Ceasefires, by their very nature, are temporary measures. They do not address the root causes of the conflict and can sometimes serve to prolong the cycle of violence. One of the dangers of ceasefires is that they can create a false sense of security. Both sides may use the lull in fighting to regroup, rearm, and prepare for the next round of violence. Ceasefires are often followed by periods of relative calm, but these are often shattered by renewed outbreaks of violence. The current ceasefire, like those before it, presents both an opportunity and a challenge. It is an opportunity to break the cycle of violence and to work towards a just and lasting peace. However, it is also a challenge as the underlying issues that led to the recent conflict remain unresolved. The path to peace is fraught with obstacles. One of the main challenges is the lack of trust between the two sides. Decades of conflict and broken promises have created deep-seated mistrust and animosity. Despite these challenges, there is still hope. The recent conflict in Israel and Palestine, and the ceasefire that will officially start on January 19, 2025, serve as a stark reminder of the human cost of this enduring conflict. It is a reminder that behind the headlines and the statistics are real people whose lives have been torn apart by violence and displacement. As we move forward, it is imperative that we do not allow the ceasefire to become a band-aid solution. The world cannot afford to turn a blind eye to the suffering of both Israelis and Palestinians. We must demand accountability, transparency, and a genuine commitment to peace from all parties involved. The question remains, will this ceasefire be any different? Will it lead to a lasting solution? Or will it simply be another chapter in this long and tragic conflict? Curious about the untold truths behind global events? Subscribe to What They Don't Tell You for more eye-opening stories you won't hear anywhere else.